Barefoot Biker here. This is a Friday recovery ride, and I'm gonna try narrating for a bit. You can turn down the volume if you hate that, I guess, and just want to see the ride. But this is a relatively easy pace, conversational ride. Happens every Friday out of the park. We left just a little before this, and the group's kind of split apart already, but it's all going to come back together here in a minute. There goes Charlie.
You're listening to Redneck.
I'm riding an S-Works Tarmac, and B-Girl is on the cruise bike Vendetta somewhere off the front up there. Anyway, this will give you kind of a feel for what it's like to ride the bike in a group, and I can talk about how much the group likes or dislikes that along the way. So that's B-Girl on the Vendetta. Her heart rate right there is about 120, which is pretty low for her, so she's just relaxing. So one of the things that's kind of interesting is with me on the upright bike and her on the Vendetta, it makes us a lot closer to even. Her functional threshold power is about 100 watts. She's super skinny, but my functional threshold power is about 240 watts, and the road is completely flat, so even though I'm much heavier than her, it really doesn't make very much difference. But when we ride these two bikes together, we're pretty well matched. So the last time she went on this ride, she got home and said, "Oh, it was too slow." So I decided I should make sure that it was a little bit faster for her this time. So that's me on the front, and they're back there somewhere. So this video is actually the first in a two-part series. I'm going to show you this ride, and then the next ride is a Saturday, unlimited pace, all-out ride. I'll be on the Vendetta on that day, and riding with some of the same folks I did the previous Saturday, so you can kind of compare what it looks like when I'm riding the Tarmac versus what it looks like when I'm riding the Vendetta. I'm equally experienced on both, but you'll see quite a big difference in where I end up. So it's been interesting riding the bike with the group. I initially got it because I wanted to be faster, and initially it was no problem. I think a lot of people think that a recumbent is kind of an old man's bike, and a lot of people assume that they're slow and that it'll be easily dropped. But then they find out that's not the case. So she's kind of coming off the front here, working her way back, and she slopped back into the draft somewhere. But the draft isn't as important on the recumbent. the aerodynamic position that you're in is already giving you some benefit. So you do still get a benefit from drafting, but instead of it being 30%, it's something more like 15% when you're behind someone. So after coming into the group initially with the bike, eventually they noticed I was fast on it, and then there was some fear, some teasing. I'd say things like, "It's not a real bike, of course it's faster. Your KOMs don't count," or they call it names like a couch bike. I don't know, they don't know me very well because I just embrace things like that, and I love being a little bit different, and I really like going fast. And then from there was some anger. I've had some obscenities yelled at me. I've had some of my rides flagged. People telling me it should be a different activity type on Strava. You're not using it right. They don't allow that. And Strava is a little weird. They don't allow velomobiles, but they do allow unfared recumbents on the leaderboards, which it actually is silly. They should categorize by type of bike so you can see what speed your performance gives on the different types of bikes. That'd be a good feature. So another thing to notice is she's kind of a long way back from the people in front of her, or maybe more than a bike length. So she's not even getting as much of a draft as you would want on an upright bike. But again, it's just not that important to be close on the Vendetta because you don't need that benefit. You're already at an aerodynamic advantage, so you don't have to be right on the wheel of someone. When I'm on the upright bike, I'm within inches of the person in front of me when I'm suffering. And on the Vendetta, I just don't have to get that close, so I don't. The Vendetta is slower to accelerate. It's a little bit heavier, so the pace is actually more consistent, which is a good thing. It's smoother. It's not going to be accelerating or decelerating back and forth in the line. And some people, like Charlie, can get a great draft off of it. Dave, not so much. If you're small and you have a small bike frame and you're really low, you're going to get more benefit being behind it than not. This ride, everybody can kind of choose their own pace. There's lots of opportunities for shortcuts. If you want to go slower, you can. For me, I wanted to stretch my legs a little bit this day, and I didn't want B-Girl complaining that the pace was too slow at the end. She'll probably never do that again. Her heart rate's about 130 here, pretty similar to mine. Anyway, after being I guess, upset or angry about the bike being in the group. Then eventually I got a couple of phone calls from people saying, hey, we made a decision, we're gonna change some of the rules on the ride, we're gonna ban recumbents, sort of like the UCI did, I guess. So you can ride it on your other rides, but just not this one or that one. So I'd say you kind of have to have a thick skin if you really want to see this through. I've also had some people talk about, well, it's a safety hazard. So I've been on a lot of rides with the recumbent and with the upright. There can be many dangerous things that happen biking. There goes Tom up to the front. But that one made me curious, because I actually feel significantly safer on the Vendetta than I do on the upright. Maybe that's just in my head, but I don't think so. I think it actually is a safer bike. So I asked people, what is it about it that you think is unsafe? And the responses I got back were varied. People said that, well, it's the other riders that are riding over their head to try and keep up with you. Or that I was riding too fast in the neutral zone, or that we simply can't draft off of you. And we have to look for you when you're passing us from the back to the front. Or there was that one time when you came unclipped in a sprint, and that was scary. So how do you respond to these things, or how do you think about them? And I guess it's kind of like I have a motorcycle that I ride also, and before I bought it, I studied all the possible ways that I could crash that motorcycle, and then looked at all of the accidents that were the most prevalent. And I tried to make sure that I did things that would prevent those types of accidents from occurring. And so I think in my group riding, that's been what's kept me safer, although I still have made mistakes. There are dangerous things that happen. I've touched wheels several times. I've gone off the road several times. I've laid the bike down. I've been over the front of my handlebars. So cycling isn't completely void of risk. Accidents can happen. Some people respond to these things by saying, well, I need to ride this bike though because I have a medical condition. B-girl, for example, has a neck issue. She had surgery on her neck. And riding the upright bike just really isn't a possibility for her. But for me, obviously I'm riding the upright right here, so I'm capable of riding both. I remember on the upright, my hands used to be so numb when I would get home that I couldn't type my password. Or my neck would hurt, or my back would hurt, and I don't even want to talk about saddle sores. But really, those are just excuses. People riding over their head, trying to keep up with someone else, that can happen regardless of the rabbit that's out front. It doesn't matter what kind of bike they're on. If there's somebody out there, naturally you want to chase them. I know I do. I got a lot stronger by chasing Tom. He'd sprint out ahead of the group and I would sprint after him every single time. And eventually I couldn't catch him. After about the third sprint, I was done, and he would ride off into the distance without me. So, that's one of the things that motivates me riding with a group, is that there are people who are faster than you and you want to catch them. You do what you can, and that makes you a better rider. Talking about drafting, like you girls up there in the middle of the group right now, there's two schools of thought, I guess, on how a recumbent should be working with the pace line. She's right in the middle. Somebody's going to come off the front, and then somebody else will rotate to the front, and the line will kind of continue like that. But not everybody in this group has the same level of fitness, so not everybody's going to take as long a turn at the front. And having a recumbent in the middle means the person behind that recumbent isn't getting as good a draft as they would be getting if the recumbent weren't there. So it can be annoying to have the recumbent right in the middle. It can work too. Some people do it that way. You have to keep it much tighter if you're doing it that way. The recumbent needs to be right on the wheel of the person in front of them, and the person behind them needs to be right on their wheel. And it does work. I'm not personally as comfortable with that. I would rather be off the front or off the back. People can choose to keep up with me when I'm off the front, or they can let me go. But that means then that I'm coming up along the side. But if you're in a ride where they're allowing people to attack, then you should expect there are people coming up on the side. You should hold your line so that that remains safe. So that kind of thing you should expect in a ride where there's going to be attacks. And even though this is a recovery ride, some people want to go faster. Here I'm going to shoot up to the front just to pick up the pace a little bit. He's coming back, so I just need to be cognizant of where everybody's at. Our moves are relative to each other. Our moves are slow and predictable. There are no surprises, no big accelerations happening. Unclipped in a sprint. Yeah, that did happen once. I was sprinting and my foot came right out. I have my pedals set as tight as they will go. So that shouldn't happen, but that can happen on any bike. Now, that's a matter of the pedal and your cleat and your connection to it, and how much power you're generating on the upstroke and how you have your pedals set. And you can pull your foot out of the pedal. It is definitely possible. And I've seen that happen to people on an upright bike and seen their foot come down after coming out to the ground. And that could be dangerous too. I didn't go down when that happened. I'm sure that I wobbled all over the road though and didn't hold my line very well, but I did the best I could. So yeah, you kind of have to have a thick skin to ride in the group, but I've kind of always had the attitude that it's a public road, and I'm going to be riding there, and if people want to ride with me, they're welcome to. And if they'd rather not, that's okay with me too. Yeah, see, that's a pretty big gap that B-Girl has in front of her there. So, again, it doesn't matter too much, and it's kind of hard to see the wheel in front of you. One of the things that I did is lined up my bike next to an upright bike. I had an upright bike right in front of me, and then I checked to see how far away is my pedal when it's at the front. How far away is that from the seat of the rider in front of me, and it is surprisingly close to the seat before your wheels will touch. So when you're laying down looking forward over your feet, it looks like you're really close. But when you realize that your pedals can almost touch the person in front of you before your wheel touches, then you know that there's actually a lot of space up there that you can use. But you don't have to. You don't have to be that close. You'll get more benefit if you're closer, but I'd rather be safer than closer. Now on the upright, I can see my wheel perfectly, and I know I'm 2 inches away from the wheel in front of me, and I need that. I need every bit of the draft that I can get, or I'm going to get dropped. So that's kind of the difference. So this loop that we're on right here is about 10 minutes to go around the loop, and I think this is her personal best around the loop. So she was drafting some of the way. I think she might be on the front now. We're getting close to it. Yeah, not quite to the front yet.
You're listening to Redneck.
So if I love riding the Vendetta, why am I riding the Tarmac? Well, you know, one, like I mentioned earlier, it's keeping us more even, but it's also giving me a better workout. I'm having to do, I don't know, probably 150 watts to stay here, and she's having to do less than 100 to be there. So we're getting about the same workout, even though our pace is, you know, our pace is identical, but the power curve is different for both of us. So if I want a better workout, if I want to push more wind, then I'll ride the upright bike. So the whole group's all still together here. When we make this left turn, there's a sprint that some of us will do and some of us won't. Heart rate's down to 130. I'm really not working very hard at all, so I'm going to go up to the front and press the pace. Well, I guess it's embarrassing, really. I mean, this is a recovery ride and I'm attacking. But Tom's on my wheel. So 350 watts,
Redneck.
and which I have no idea because I wasn't looking at that. And B-Girl is trying to follow us, pulling the group along with her. She got up to around 24 miles an hour, and her heart rate did go up to about 163. Here I am maxed out, and I see Tom could easily pass me, but there's a car coming and he sees that I'm wobbling all over the road, so he elects to stay behind me. Yeah, it's funny, just that one little sprint put about 15 seconds on the rest of the group. So we're slowed down waiting for them, but this is the part where maybe I don't end up with a girlfriend anymore because yeah, we just stayed ahead of them here the rest of the way. But like I said, there are a couple of shortcuts, and so they all stayed together, and Tom and I stayed together through this part. We weren't going super hard, but we were going a little above what the rest of the group was doing. And right here I kind of let Tom go, and I used him as my rabbit. So then eventually I started chasing. And it took me a while. It took me quite a while. Before eventually I caught him. The other group took a slightly shorter route, so we should come upon them right about here. And there they are. And this is where the ride ends. So that was B-Girl on the recumbent in the group. And then the next one, I'll show you me on the Vendetta in an unlimited ride.